Expecto Patronum! Hi everyone, it's me. Let's find out the truth of Harry Potter, the boy who lived.
Fair warning, today's theory will completely alter the way you watch movies 3 through 7 Part 2, otherwise known as 8 for any sane human, of the Harry Potter series. If you want to preserve the memories of those, go
Part 1, Part 2, or Part 7.
binge watch them now, because after today, you will never look at the battle between these two wizards the same way again. Your childhoods have been warned. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show.
Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory. Hi.
Where I was gonna do an episode on Fantastic Beasts, but frankly, the more I looked into that movie, the more I just wanted to go back and talk about some good old-fashioned Harry Potter. You know that feel when you got a Scamander and you just want a little bit more Longbottom? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You know what I mean. So anyway, in combing back through the old Potter lore to piece together the secrets of magical beasts, which will eventually become a theory, don't get your nifflers in a twist, I discovered something that literally changed everything I thought I knew about everyone's favorite boy who lived. And no, it's not something that's an obvious part of the story's lore. At least, I don't think so. In a weird way, Harry should be thanking Voldemort. Otherwise, he would have just been, well, Neville. Then again, that Neville one surprised me too when I put all the pieces together, but apparently it was old news to a bunch of the Potterheads. But hey, okay, I'm sorry. I'm not the type of person who remembers from memory what the Dursleys were eating for breakfast on the morning that Harry was invited to the Quidditch World Cup.
Sausage, grapefruit, carrots,
It was
oatmeal.
grapefruit, right? I think it was grapefruit. That's my answer, grapefruit. Let me know in the comments if I'm right. Anyway, this theory hinges on an ancient form of magic, number magic, otherwise known as math. Man, can you think about how much more excited everyone would be to have their 5th period class be number magic instead of math? Math, real talk, you got yourself a branding problem. And heck, no wonder Harry and Co didn't figure this one out themselves, since number magic isn't even a subject that they're taught. But don't you worry, because I've got you covered. So hop on those firebolts, cause away we go. For this theory, we get to go back, way back, to Harry Potter Part 6. Long before Harry pulled the ultimate fanboy move and named his kid Albus Severus Potter, we got this scene where we see Tom Riddle, otherwise known as Pre-Voldemort, learning about splitting his soul using dark magic.
Pre-Voldemort.
It's called, as I understand it, a Horcrux.
It's the first time that we hear Tom Riddle specifically mention Horcruxes, which we know he later uses to divide up his soul into neat little slices of soul pie and shove them into pretty much anything he can get his hands on, from books to cups to snakes. Snakes, not Snapes. Though, real talk, how awesome would it be to have Snapes on a plane? Get these
Of course.
Snapes off my mother
Of course.
plane. Samuel L. Jackson must have failed potions. Oh, and by the way, this joke in fond memory of Alan Rickman. You are certainly missed, sir. No, enough sadness, back to the theory.
Thank you so much for being such an important role model for that particular role. Thank you so much. You are awesome.
As Slughorn mentions in the scene, Horcrux talk is no laughing matter.
This is very dark stuff, very dark indeed.
Tom says probably what we're all thinking,
I didn't fully understand it.
like the cheeky little scamp that he is. But in all seriousness, how does this work? Because if you really stop to think about it, there are some pretty severe implications to this whole Horcrux business that goes unexplored in the books and movies. So before we go there, let me remind you of the mechanics of splitting your soul. This one is for all of us
Splitting Souls 101.
who aren't hardcore enough to have yawned their way through the Deathly Hallows Part 1 15 times. And let's be honest here for a second. We can all agree, right, that Ron being gifted and brought back by a Deluminator is a pretty darn goofy moment, right? Am I the only one who thinks that still? Because seriously, the thing just takes light away from things. It doesn't also have a magical teleportation device in it. That's just random. You must be JK. Anyway, a Horcrux is an object that contains or hides
You must be JK. Joking. Just kidding.
part of someone's soul, thus allowing them to survive should someone kill their original body. It's like a bank, but instead of money, you store souls. Just like a real bank. Have you seen those interest rates lately? Seriously, less than 1%. What are you doing, economy? Anyway, in the scene we saw before, Slughorn dishes up some really handy exposition by telling us that to create a Horcrux, we have to commit a murder, then somehow use the life energy transferred during that murder to split your own soul in half and sort of rip part of it out of your body and cram it into the nearest object of your choice. Preferably something with a little staying power and not that that week old block of cheese in the back of your fridge. Though, I will admit that thing's been in there for a while and at this point I ain't touching it, so perhaps that cheese is the safest vessel for that soul. Anyway, based on the info from the books and the movies, the actual mechanics of soul cutting and soul transferring are a bit hazy, but it's not like we're writing an eHow page on the subject. We get the general point that when you create a Horcrux, you're splitting your soul in half between your body and an object, and that tells us everything we need for today's theory.
Alright, just to clarify, I really liked the Harry Potter series when he was a kid, but as he grew older, have you recognized that how much darker the tone is, the atmosphere, the environment is? Where's the happy-go-lucky, oh, it's just magic, it's magic, you know, and it's just getting darker and darker.
So Tom Riddle and Slughorn talk about splitting the soul into 7 pieces, but we all assumed that it's 7 equal pieces. It is most definitely not. Every time Voldemort splits his soul in half, he only leaves half of his remaining soul in his own body. Then the next time he creates a Horcrux, it splits in half again, over and over. So what does that mean? Well, let's walk through some history that must not be named to see how it all plays out. He starts in 1943 with 1 whole soul. This conversation with Slughorn happens after the school year starts in 1943 when Tom is 16 years old. In the Chamber of Secrets, we learn that Tom Riddle puts his 16-year-old soul into his diary, thus creating the first Horcrux. To create this Horcrux, he kills Moaning Myrtle, which we also confirm when she describes her killer as a boy speaking a strange language.
But they said something funny, a kind of made-up language.
With 1 Horcrux made, he who must need a rhinoplasty is down to 50% of a soul, with the other 50% locked into the diary. At this point, we know then that the diary is the Horcrux that contains the largest percentage of Voldemort. After that, the creation of each Horcrux is supposedly tied to a major murder committed by Tom, at least according to J.K. Rowling in a rule that we'll see her break in just under 45 seconds. Now, when Tom kills his father, Tom Riddle Sr., he creates the Marvolo Gaunt Ring Horcrux, which we see on his finger in the scene with Slughorn. This is around the time of him creating the diary, also when he's either 16 or 17. And since we're taking half the soul Voldemort has remaining, this means that the Gaunt Ring has 25% Tom, and Tom himself is down to 25%, and with his prospects rapidly falling.
Wait, have you actually noticed that in the stories, they mention that the souls can be split, but they do not mention that the split souls can grow? They haven't mentioned that.
Next, he kills...
Like, instead of always being stuck at 50%, it can slowly become 51, 52, 53, 54, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Hepzibah. I don't know how to say your name, Hepzibah, but I'm gonna say it that way because it's fun to say. Next, he kills Hepzibah Smith in 1945, followed by a random muggle. Like I said, JK breaking her own rule. Anyway, these 2 characters aren't really in the movies, but were confirmed in a web interview with JK Rowling in 2007. Tom bumps them both off and splits his soul into the Hufflepuff cup that we see in Goblet of Fire and the Slytherin locket that shows up at the Sirius Black estate. So these Horcruxes have 12.5% soul and 6.25% soul.
Wait, I just noticed, when he mentions major murder, does it mean human to human, or is it like the human to insect? I mean, or even like human to a plant. Plants are still living creatures.
Tom himself being down to 6.25%. If you think about what that means, it's actually not surprising that as he rises to power, you see him start to physically change in response to his soul being drained. If you can lose over 95% of your soul and only really be missing some skin pigment, your hair, and your nose, that's not such a bad trade-off for immortality, all things considered. I'm just saying. Anyway, the next Horcrux is in 1956, the Ravenclaw Diadem. We know Voldemort shows back up at Hogwarts at this point to ask Dumbledore to become the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, which Dumbledore turns him down for. After that, Voldemort, get this, curses the position and everyone who holds it from then on. Hence the reason why every year there's a new teacher in the position. I honestly didn't know this until reading up on all the lore bits on the Pottermore site. Isn't that insane? Voldemort is like the sorest loser ever. And it's worth mentioning that this is probably Voldemort's most effective spell well, of the entire series.
How?
Anyway, J.K. Rowling has also confirmed in several interviews that Voldemort cursed the position and the curse wasn't broken until he died. And since he was in the neighborhood anyway, he hid the diadem Horcrux in the Room of Requirement, which, despite what he says about it in the book, was ridiculously easy to find. Here's a bright idea. Let me hide this item in a room that, if someone is required to kill me, will make sure it shows up right in time for that person. What an excellent hiding spot. Then again, I suppose he required that the room needed to be hidden so he wouldn't die, so really we just have the Room of Requirement playing favorites now. I see, of course, you two are choosing Team Harry. Anyway, short story, even shorter. If Malfoy hadn't shown up, the whole thing would have taken like 3 minutes. But I digress. What's important here is that by age 30, Voldemort's soul is down to 3.125%.
And also, in the stories, they did not mention anything about growing back the souls. Alright, it mentions splitting it, but it didn't mention growing it individually.
Of his original soul. And despite talking about this grand plan to split his soul into 7 pieces, he must absolutely suck at counting because he actually quits at 6. 5 items and his original soul. Way to do a job only 857 hundredths of the way, Voldy. Because yeah, at that point Voldemort takes a little siesta for about 30 years. I don't know, maybe he's afraid of more appendages falling off. So there's no other Horcrux creation until 1981. That's the moment when Voldemort attacks Harry Potter. That's not even intentional Horcrux creation. I don't think this guy was ever gonna get to 7. By the way, just as a side note, anyone else realize that Voldemort is 54 when he attacks Harry? I always just assumed that he was in like his 30s. And that is still decades before the book. He is literally 70 when we see him returning to power. That is crazy. People give the guy a hard time for looking as rough as he does? Pfft, come on, if I'm looking like that when I'm 70, then I must have had some plastic surgery done because he's really missing key features of his face. Oh.
Okay, especially, Anyways.
Also worth mentioning, in real life, Harry Potter would be almost 40. Ugh, makes me feel sad and old. Regardless, we all know the story. When Harry Potter and Voldemort meet, Voldemort's spell rebounds and he inadvertently splits his soul again, making Harry the unintentional Horcrux.
Or you can always use a gun on baby. Why?
Now, there's some debate about the actual Horcruxiness of Harry, but in a web interview with J.K. Rowling on the Leaky Cauldron site, she directly confirms that Harry Potter is indeed the last unintentional Horcrux. So for this episode, I'm with her. The important part here is that when the attack happens, Voldemort's soul splits again. His body basically vaporizes and turns that remaining 1.5625% of soul into some kind of weird wafting spirit that later attaches to the back of Professor Quirrell's head like some sort of face leech. This also means that we've pinpointed exactly how much Voldemort is in Harry. Just over 1.5%. Maybe that's what Harry's scar really is. Just a little soul schmutz on his forehead. You got a little something, just lick your thumb and a little something right there that, let me just... Since you don't have a mother, I have to do it for you. Ooh, that hurts. So what does all this tell us when the Harry Potter series starts? Well, first, that the whole Potter series is predicated on a 1.5% soul blob, which does seem to take a little bit away from the gravitas of this series. It also tells us that when Harry's destroying Horcruxes, some of them matter a whole lot more than others. The very first one that Harry destroys is actually the biggest deal because it contains literally half of Voldemort. Half. 50%, more than any other Horcrux, and way more than Voldemort himself at the end of the series. So in reality, by the end of book 2, Voldemort is mathematically mostly dead. From there, the Horcruxes go on to be destroyed in pretty much the same order that they were created, effectively knocking out 96.875% of Voldemort's soul before the final movie even begins.
Wow. Wait, what? Before the final movie even begins? I love math.
Alright, but I hear you remembering your Harry Potter movie trivia, and y'all see what I'm leaving out here. It's not the elephant in the room, it's the snake. Any true Potterite knows that Nagini is also a Horcrux in the series, but one that I haven't mentioned yet at all. Well, here's why. Nagini was created in 1994, 13 years after his run-in with Harry Potter. During Harry's 4th year, Nagini becomes Voldemort's last attempt to split his soul into even more tiny little soul crumbs. But what this means for the series is
is the really fascinating part, because at this point with the creation of the final Horcrux, Voldemort's soul splits one final time, leaving him with only 0.78%.
Less than a 1%.
Less than 1% of his original soul, meaning that Nagini has the other 0.78%. With so little soul left, it's no wonder that Voldy can't effectively use the Elder Wand at the end of the series. Yeah, I know that the actual explanation given in the movies is about disarming the Elder Wand from other wizards, but that is a whole nother episode unto itself, my friends. What's even more shocking about this reveal is that it means that Harry Potter himself, starting in the 4th movie and through to the end of the series, is more Voldemort than Voldemort. In fact, he's literally twice the Voldemort is. From the 4th movie onward, Tommy Riddle is at 0.78% soul. Harry, from his birth, is rocking out at 1.5% Voldemort. And when you stop to think about it that way, the last battles of this series are really anticlimactic. They are literally battling over a villain with a health bar of less than 1%. In this epic battle for Hogwarts, the grand evil wizard is just a fraction of a fraction of a fraction. So there you have it. Definitive mathematical proof supported by the author and the lore that Harry Potter is more Voldemort than the actual Voldemort in the Harry Potter series. Makes you look at him a bit differently, huh? Every time you see Harry on screen, you're literally looking at the largest percent of Dark Lord walking around in the whole series.
Voldemort!
Oh yeah, and if you want one final thing that'll completely ruin the way that you look at Harry Potter from here on out, Daniel Radcliffe starred in the Broadway production of Equus, in which he rides horses around naked. So, have fun Google image searching that one. Put away your wand, Harry, put it away. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Accio subscribe button, and remember, it's called subscribe and not subscribe. So
Subscribe!
please perform some magic of your own and click that subscribe button. Like I mentioned with Fantastic Beasts being a new series, you can bet theories are on their way about that one. And if subscribing ain't your thing, well then do me a favor. Click on your favorite character. Harry, Ron, or Hermione. Consider this the super amazing end card tournament. Choose whichever.
Oh, this is just very classic. Let me try. Welcome back to the super amazing anchor tournament!
I'm just curious, which one is your favorite? Hermione? Definitely mine. I mean, she's got a great brain on her, just saying. So please, click subscribe if you haven't, make sure you cast your vote on your favorite character, and now, if you'll excuse me, I have a new theory to work on. I'll see you next week with something that's a bit more sinister and blonde.
Oh my gosh! Interesting. Oh, thank you so much for watching this video together with me. If you do like this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel and comment down below if you think each of us. Don't forget to follow my channel. I sincerely appreciate all of the support and encouragement for my work. Thank you so much. I hope that you find this video very interesting and very entertaining to watch. Yeah, quite funny actually, very enjoyable. And I hope to see you in my next video. But hey, that's just a theory, a film theory, and cut. And hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye! And please remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, follow, etc. Thank you so much for support. Thank you.